Hello and welcome to today's Bitrix24 webinar HR Toolkit. Okay, so who are we? We are Bitrix24 Gold Partners Interface. We're based here in the UK and we also have offices in New York and Dubai. And we offer a full range of packages to help you with Bitrix24. That starts with pre-sale support, so we can answer any questions that you have about the system and provide a customized demonstration. We can also implement the system for you if you decide Bitrix is the right solution for your business. For a self-hosted edition, we can host this for you, so we can provide hosting services. And we can then train you and provide ongoing dedicated support to really help you get the most out of Bitrix24. And if you've come to the webinar today, if you're new to Bitrix24 and coming to learn about the HR tools that we have, Bitrix24 is a collaboration suite of well over now 40 tools to help you manage your business. There are over 8 million customers around the world using Bitrix24, and the system is available in two separate editions. So you have the Cloud Edition and there's also the Self-Hosted Edition. And prices start from around $19 for a cloud-based system, and the self-hosted edition is available from $1,490 for a 12-user lifetime license. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at the HR tools that are available in Bitrix24. So first of all, really, why would you use Bitrix24 to manage your HR requirements? So Bitrix24 has tools for finding employees very easily. You can manage users' work time and their personal area for storing any personal documents such as contracts and maybe appraisal documents. So those can all be stored in one solution. We also have self-service forms for managing lots of different types of requests, but they're very good for managing, for example, absence management requests, expense or purchase requests. And those self-service forms can be customized, which we'll have a look at shortly. And there are also custom processes, such as maybe onboarding new starters into your business. We can create an onboarding process within Bitrix24. Okay, so let's move on now to look at some of these HR tools in more detail. So first of all, we're going to have a look at the profile and company structure, so how we can build out our departments within Bitrix24. We'll then have a look at the time management features and the reporting elements of this. So we'll see how we can clock in to the system and manage workers' times in the Bitrix24 tool. We'll then look at the personal drive. So this is where we can store our documents such as contracts and appraisals, and we can set permissions on any of those documents that we store in the system. And then we'll go on to really quite an important aspect right now, especially with remote working, but how we can keep our employees engaged. So we'll see how we can make announcements and different types of maybe personalized appreciations for our colleagues in the system. And then we'll look at some of those self-service forms we've mentioned and how we can implement our own processes into Bitrix24. Okay then, so first of all, we're going to just go into our Bitrix system. And first of all, we're going to have a look at the company structure and the profile pages. So we're in our Bitrix24 system. And what you can see here in the top right-hand corner is your profile. So we're currently logged in as Max Smith. So I can go into here and you've got the My Profile section. So this is your very own personal area where you can see your details and information, and each user gets their own profile page in the system. Okay, so that could be a real image of myself, for example. So I could be installing a picture there of myself. So every user can do that on their system. So you can make this very personalized to yourself. And then we can see on the right hand side, we've got some custom fields here. So we've got some different details about myself here. And I can go into here and add my own fields. So maybe I want to add a file, for example. So maybe I want to upload contracts into here. So I can create a custom field, and then I could attach a document into here, for example. So that gives you the ability to create your own customized fields in the system. And that's then available in here. I can then configure this. Maybe I want to actually hide it. So you can customize your own profile page. And you can see across the top, this links into different areas of the Bitrix system. So I can now open up all of my tasks that I am responsible for. So this then opens up that task page with all of the details about all of the tasks that I'm working on. You've also got your calendar as well. So I could go into here and view all of my calendar details in the system. And with your calendars, you can also integrate with external applications as well. So each user in the system can have their own profile page. And you can do that on the cloud or also the on-premise system. So here on our cloud edition, I've also got profile inside here. And that can then open up my profile on the cloud edition as well. Okay, so now though, let's have a look at rather than the individual profile, let's just have a look at the actual company structure that we can build as well. So within Bitrix24, what we can do is we can build a company structure. So whatever your business is structured like in terms of departments, we can add that into Bitrix24. So in here, we can see all of the different departments for the business. And those could be multiple different substructures here. So we can see individual departments within the field consultants area. And what we can do is we can add each user to their relevant department, or it could also be multiple departments that we add them to. And within here, what we can see each user in the system. But what I can also do is at the top here, I've got a universal search area. So if I wanted to find any of my colleagues in the system, I could simply search through that tool and it will pop up with them. So I can see Mark Hope, one of my colleagues in the system, and I could click on Mark there and it will open up Mark's profile page like so. And with any user in here, you have the ability either on that profile page or through the structure here, I could send them a message. So on the system here, you have an instant messaging tool. You can also do video calling and voice calling with any of your colleagues in the Bitrix24 system. So it's a great tool for collaborating with other people. And we also have the employee membership area here. So I can see all of the details of our employees and search in the system here as well. If I wanted to find the details of any of my colleagues in the system. So I can see all of that information like so. Okay, so that's the individual profile page and the company structure where we can build out all of our departments. So now let's just move on to the time management and reporting features. So within Bitrix24, you have, with certain editions, I need to point out, with the professional cloud edition or with any self-hosted edition, you have time management features. So here at the top, for example, you can see the clock in feature. So what this allows me to do is to record my working day. I can log that time in Bitrix24. So currently I am logged in, but it could be I want to take a break. So when I click the break button, you can see now it's starting to log the amount of time that I have managed as my break period in Bitrix24. And what we'll do later on when we go on the mobile app, we'll clock out so we can see clocking out from the system as well. So with this, you can then log that amount of time, and that time will then get fed into your time and reporting section of the system. So if I go to our time and reports area, and if I go to our work time section, we can see here all the amount of time that has been logged in the system. So I can click into any of those time slots that has been completed, and it will open up and give me all of the details about that worker's daily report. So I can see when they clocked in, how long they took a break for, and also when they've clocked out. So it gives me a total amount of time that that user has been clocked in working in the system. And I can then filter through here. So if I wanted to look at those maybe of a certain department, this is then connects with our company structure that we've just looked at. So I could then look at maybe all of the times for certain departments in the system here. Now what you can also do is you can set schedules. So if I go into here, we might want to set a certain shift pattern or a schedule for either all of our users in the system or maybe for certain departments. So I could come into here, for example, and say Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. The user has to be clocked in. And we could also give them a certain amount of break time. So that then means each day the user has to be clocked in for 8 hours a day for Monday to Friday. And I can then select specifically what period that particular shift pattern is going to be applied for. And I can then also select what employees this particular pattern is then going to be synchronized for. So I can select who this would be applied to. And based on those time parameters, we can then put actual warnings in place. So we could say, for example, a user is able to clock in or clock out within a certain time period between that 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. cutoff times. So I might say, for example, they could clock in up to, say, 8:30 a.m. So they're not allowed to clock in any earlier than that time. And I could say maybe they have to clock out by, let's say, 6:30 p.m. So you can put very strict schedules on those for what a user can clock in and clock out by in the system. And based on that, we can then send notifications to, say, the manager, for example, if, for example, a user does not clock in by a certain time period. And you can also clock in not just in terms of that working time day, so it records the amount of time. You can also use the clock-in feature on tasks. So within a task page, you can also record the amount of time that is spent on individual tasks. So I can go into this task and we can now see the amount of time that is now being recorded on this particular task. So that will then be recorded in the time elapsed area. So the amount of time spent on tasks is also then recorded in the system. Okay, so that's a look at the time management reporting features where we can clock in and clock out. Now let's take a look at the personal drive area, so where we can store documents and information. So Bitrix comes with a drive module, and there's kind of two separate areas for this. So you have the company drive. So this can really be your document, your company library area, where you can store all of your folders and files that are associated to your organization. And we could then put permissions for maybe what different departments can access those different folders in your drive space. But you also get your own personal drive area. And this is where you can store your own personal, maybe contracts or appraisal documents. This is stored in your personal drive space where nobody else can access. So I can store all of that information in here. But maybe I do want to share this, maybe, for example, with my manager. So I can, on any of the documents stored in my drive space, I can then give either individual people or departments access to that document. So if I go into here and maybe I give Jim full access to that document that is stored in my personal drive area. So that's where you can store information. You can filter through this to find any documents, and you can integrate documents either from a local computer, or we do have integrations with external applications as well. So you can store all of that information. Now, what you can also do in the drive area is if you do integrate with one of those external applications, it does mean you have the ability to then edit those documents within the Bitrix system. So if I go into one of our documents here, for example, I might want to edit this particular document, and I've connected with our Google Docs application. So with that plugin, I can then come into this document and I can then go into here and edit this document like so. So I can edit those documents, I can then save those documents, so it's saved back into the Bitrix drive space for me. And on any of these documents, you can see revision histories. So you can see every time a document is edited or amended. So I can see that one there, for example. And what you can do is you can click back onto those documents so you can see what that document was like at that given time. And you can restore back to that edition if required. Okay, so that's the drive area within Bitrix where we can store files and folders and documents that we would want to store in our drive space. And now let's move on to the, as I say, quite an important area right now, as a lot of people are remote working, is the employee engagement. We want to keep people engaged and have that team feel. So Bitrix24 is very good at this. So first of all, what we have here in the activity stream, this is basically your personal newsfeed area. So this is where you can see all of the posts, submissions that you are associated to. So you'll see all of that information in your feed area. And any of these posts or submissions I can like, I can add an emoji here, I can add my own comment back, I could upload some documents. So it allows you to collaborate on any posts that are submitted to your feed area. And within here, I could add a message. So maybe I want to send a message to a certain person. So I might want to send this to Mark, for example. So I can send that message and that will go to Mark and that will get fed into his newsfeed area. And Mark would then be able to comment and like that back. So it's a great area for collaboration. But we can also send particular types of posts. So maybe we want to actually send an appreciation. And with an appreciation, you can send a badge. So I'm going to actually send this to everybody in the business. But specifically, I'm going to send the announcement of the appreciation. It's going to go to a particular user in the system. So let's say this is going to go to Mary, for example. So Mary's done a good job. And I can then add her into here. So she's going to be a recipient of this appreciation, but everyone's going to be made aware of this. And I can then select a badge that I want to send to Mary as an acknowledgement in this particular appreciation. So I'm going to send her a trophy. So that will be sent out and I can submit that. And what will happen with that particular appreciation is it goes actually into that profile page. So if I just go back into the profile page that we looked at earlier on, in particular, this one is Max's profile page. If I just scroll down here, you can see all of those appreciations. So if you send an appreciation to somebody, that will get logged in their profile page. So I can go into here and see any particular appreciations that have been sent to me. I can see all of the details. So it's just a really nice feature to keep kind of the team motivated, to show your appreciation for somebody. That can then be managed through the appreciation tool. But maybe another type of post is maybe an announcement. So really one of the key differences here with an announcement is we can have those pinned at the top of the newsfeed or as a widget on the right hand side here for a particular amount of time. So maybe we've got maybe a new starter, for example. So maybe we want to announce this to the rest of the business. So we could do that. So I might say we've got a new person starting today. I'm going to send this to everybody. And that will then be sent out to everybody in the system. They'll receive a notification. And we can also make the user mark that particular message as read. So if I go into one of our other users posts here, we can see here that announcement we've just sent on the right hand side. It's been pinned here, so is it in the widget, and in my newsfeed section as well, it's come through, and I can mark that as read. So I can then send a message back, and all of that is then notified, so I can see that notification, and it's all in that one post and submission. So again, you can see all of the information about that particular announcement in the system. And another feature we have is the company pulse. So the company pulse, this is quite a nice feature because it gives you an overview of which areas of the system users are using the most. What are people using in Bitrix24? So you can search by individual employees and users in here, and you can do it also as a whole company. So I can go into here and search by users, or we could just look at this as an overall company picture and see what's being used the most, maybe what's not being used. So we might want to send a message to people to tell them to start using the drive area, for example. So we can use the pulse to actually get people to start using many of the different features that are available in Bitrix24. Okay, so let's just see if there are any questions before we move on to the self-service forms today. Okay, someone's just had a question about how can I accommodate the company structure on horizontal view. Mine is only vertical. So I think we just need some more details specifically about what you're doing there. So obviously you've got a horizontal view here, so you can add additional departments into this format, so horizontally, or you can go down vertically. So if I wanted to add another department into here, I can use the substructure. So I can add a parent department, and that would then allow me to go vertically down underneath, just like we can see here with the field consultants. Okay, someone just said, how can we disable the time tracker? So what you can do, so if you don't actually want to be using that, for example, if we just go into the town and report section, and if we go back to the scheduling area of the system, what you can do is I can, in the allow clock in and clock out area, I could just turn off those applications here so a user wouldn't have to clock in. So if you want to turn that off, that's absolutely fine. You can simply disable the feature. Okay, can we change the name of users from employees to team members? So I don't think you would be able to do that with a cloud system. Now, we can definitely look into that with an on-premise system for you. So with an on-premise system of Bitrix24, we have access to the source code. So yeah, I think with an on-premise system that would be achievable. So if that's something you are interested in, then we can definitely look into that for you. We'll put our details up on the presentation shortly, so please do get in touch and we can check what work would be involved to change the name from employees to whatever you would want to call them. Okay, so now let's move on to, let's look at some of the live examples of the forms that we've been talking about. So within Bitrix24, you can create your own self-service forms to manage processes in the system. And some very common and well-used areas of the system for managing absence requests, for maybe new starter, if you're onboarding that person. And we can also manage the time tracking feature using the mobile app. So let's have a look at some of these in more detail. So first of all, where those self-service forms are located. So if we go to the More section here, and if I go to the workflow area, we can then see all of the different workflows that we have available in our system. So I'm going to submit, I want to submit for some absence holiday vacation leave. So first of all, when I click on that leave approval, it opens up this self-service form where I can submit my information to hopefully get my leave request authorized. So I can first of all select the start date, and then I'm going to select the end date for this vacation. And then I need to select an absence type. And these fields here that you see, it's completely customizable. So if you might want to add certain maybe new fields into this, for example, you can do that. So if you wanted to maybe add a file or a document that needed to be submitted with this leave approval, then you could do that through the system. So we'll show you in a second how you can customize these. But now, for example, I'm going to submit this, and that will now go to my manager to either approve or reject in the system. Okay, so now let's just go into our managers area. So I'm just going to refresh this. So we can see now that leave approval has come through to the manager. I can see the details, so I can click into here, and I can then either approve or reject this. I'm going to approve it, so I'm going to authorize that. And now if we just go back into our user, we can see we've got a notification that that holiday has been approved. And if we go to our time and reports area, this is where the absence chart is stored. So you'll be able to see all of the different absences, either through sickness, leave, vacation, that has been authorized. So here I can see that request now that has been authorized in the system. And you'll be able to filter through this based on different departments to see the different leaves that have been submitted. But let's just have a look now at that workflow in some more detail. So this is that leave approval workflow we've just completed. Now I mentioned how you can configure the actual form. So here you can see all of the different fields for that particular form. So I could simply go into here into the add field button, and I could then add any particular types of fields that I would want to display on that leave approval form. So you can completely customize what information needs to be displayed. And we saw that workflow as well. So we saw how that went to my manager to approve, and then it got fed into the absence chart. And the actual workflow itself, that is completely customizable as well. So this is the leave approval process. This is the back end of that system. Okay, so here we can see this is the leave approval workflow. So first of all, we requested that leave, and it went to our supervisor. And then the supervisor either approved that holiday, as we did, or you can reject it. Now, based on that, we're going to check that status. So if it's rejected, we're going to notify the requester that the leave was denied. But if it's approved, we're going to notify them that it was approved. As we saw, we received a notification to tell me that the holiday had been approved. And then it's going to get added into the absence chart, just like we've seen. And this workflow is customizable. So on the right-hand side, you can see the different action blocks that we can add into any workflow. So I might want to maybe add an email message into here if it's rejected, or maybe I add a task if it's approved. You can completely customize these workflows to your specific requirements. Okay. Now, a question we do get asked quite a lot around this is if you can add toil. So can you add, say, a balance that a user has, and you can then see the remaining holiday balance that a user has in the system to use up. Now, we do have a plugin for the on-premise edition which allows you to set a balance for the amount of leave a user can have in the system. And we can then see a running total of how much holiday has been used and what their remaining balance is in the system. So if I go to that user's profile page again, what you'll be able to see here is the remaining leave entitlement. So that will continuously start to decrease as more holiday is approved in the system. So that's a plugin we have for the on-premise edition. So if you're interested in that, please do get in touch and we can show you some more details about that particular process. Okay, so that's looking at an absence request, but now let's look at maybe a non-starter. So if we have a new starter in the business, we might want to run an onboarding process to manage all of the different maybe tasks or meetings that need to be completed. And this is a customized process. So the leave approval comes as standard with Bitrix. The onboarding process we're going to look at now is a customized process in the system. Okay, so let's go back to our workflow section. Specifically now we're going to look at the new starter onboarding. So in this one, we have a new form. We can see lots of different details there that need to be added. So first of all, we're going to add the employee who is going to be starting with us. So this is going to be a Lucy. We need to add a title. And what start date this user has. And you can see here, this is quite important. We're going to add the role. And based on this selection, we're then this will configure what workflow is then initiated in the background. So Lucy is going to be a marketing manager. So we're going to select the marketing role and we're going to make Max Smith the buddy. And we can then add their leave entitlement. So this is where that plugin comes in. And maybe you want to upload their resume or contract into here as well. And that can then get synced into their personal drive space. Okay, so we've submitted that workflow in the system. And what will happen now is I can see in my feed area, because I've been made responsible, that has now sent me a particular workflow in the system. So I'm going to accept this particular onboarding process. And I've just received that notification now. So I need to start working on this particular process. So I need to book in an induction. So it's starting to go through a chain of activities that I need to complete from onboarding Lucy in the system. So all of those will then go through the system. And as we complete them, we can then sign those off in the system. And if we go back again into the workflow section, let's just have a look at that workflow in some more detail. So first of all, you can see in here all of the different onboarding processes that have been completed. So all of the information, it's stored in here. So if you ever needed to find maybe when did a certain user's onboarding workflow get initiated, you can go into this area to find that level of information. But again, let's just have a look at that particular workflow in some more detail. Okay, so this is the onboarding workflow. So first of all, we added that information into the system. And I mentioned how we had that role. So was the user a manager or an admin in the system in that role type? And based on that role we selected, it then goes down a very specific process. So if it's a manager, we're then going down this process on the left-hand side. If it's an administrator, we're going down a completely different process on the right-hand side here. So based on the conditions we add into that form, we can then run a specific process based on that information. Okay, so that's looking at the onboarding section of the system. And we've also mentioned about the mobile application. So let's have a look as well at how we can use the mobile app to manage our time. So we mentioned how we can clock in and clock out of the system. So let's just have a look now at that in some more detail. Okay, so I'll just get the mobile application up for you. Okay, so let's just now have a look at there's the mobile app. So with the mobile app, we get a lot of that functionality we've already mentioned. So we can see the profile page, we can see all of the details about the user in the system. And specifically here, we're going to look at the way we can manage our time in the system. So here we can go into the work time area, and it shows me that time that I have clocked in the system. So we saw how I was currently on my break, so I can clock out of that break area and now continue my working day. And you can now see how it's starting to log that time in the system. So once I completed my day, I could either be using the portal system here, or I could use the mobile application to manage my break time in the system. And once I'm done, I could then clock out of the system. Okay, so that's a look at the mobile application there. So let's just see if we have any other questions that you would like to run through. Okay, so is it possible to attach a cost to the time worked on tasks? A standard, no, it doesn't allow you to attach a cost into the amount of time that's spent on those. You would have to look either with an on-premise, we could look to build a customization for you, or you would need to look at the marketplace to see if there is a particular application that you could use to manage your requirements. So I know, for example, there is what we call the billable hours for tasks. And what this allows you to do is, based on the amount of time that is spent on those tasks, you can then create timesheets, and also you can create invoices. So you could add, based on the task, the amount of time that is spent on the task, you can then add an hourly rate. So that can then generate you an invoice based on the amount of time that is spent on that task. So you would have to look at using some of these third-party applications to manage that requirement. Okay, so just as a recap then, what we've looked at today. So we've just there had a look at the different processes in the system, and we've gone through some questions there. So in summary, we've got our profile and the company structure, where we can manage all of our users and the actual structure of the departments. And we looked there as well at how we can use that tool for either instantly messaging, video calling, or voice calling our colleagues in the system. We also looked at the time management aspects, where we can clock in and clock out of the system and build reports for the amount of time spent working in the platform. We looked at the personal drive areas, where we can store documents and give permissions for selected users to access those drive areas. And then we looked at the employee engagement for how we can create announcements and appreciations to engage with our employees in the system. And then we looked at as well at the permissions on those drive areas, and then the self-service forms, how we can build specific processes to manage, for example, leave requests or onboarding processes. Now, if you do have any other questions in the meantime, or if you'd like to get in touch, please do email sales@intraface.com, and we will set up a call with you to discuss your specific requirements. Okay, and then coming soon, here is a selection of other webinars. I know next week we will be looking at total telephony, so how we can manage telephony integration in Bitrix24. I want to thank you for your time today. I hope you found the HR Toolkit webinar insightful and useful, and hopefully you can join us next week for total telephony. Bye for now.